Welcome to the BLUF podcast, where you get the bottom line up front and we won't waste your time.
Hello and welcome back to the BLUF line. Again, I am your host, Command Sergeant Major Juan Jimenez, and I am glad to be back with you live, bringing you some more information, bringing you some special guests onto the show today. And I'd really like to talk to you guys today about National Hispanic Heritage Month. Again, bienvenidos a todos. Me da mucho gusto que están escuchando con nosotros ahora en el día de la Hispanic Heritage Month celebration. So thank you guys for listening in. Thank you for tuning in, and we'll get started on the show. Again, we have two special guests, but before I get started, a little bit of information about the Hispanic Heritage Month that we got going for you guys today. It is a period from September 15th to October 15th in the United States for recognizing the contributions and influence of the Hispanic Americans to the history, culture, and achievements of the United States. The observation started in 1968 as Hispanic Heritage Week under President Lyndon Johnson and was expanded by President Ronald Reagan in 1988 to cover a 30-day period starting on September 15th and ending on October 15th. So this show is going to go live during that time frame, and I want to just tell all our listeners, thank you for tuning in. And by all means, if you want anybody to be on this show and get interviewed or want some specific information, reach out to me. Like I've put out before, my email and my phone numbers are out there. Reach out to me so we can get you the latest people or get you that information that you may be looking for. This year's theme for Hispanic Heritage Month is Esperanza, a celebration of Hispanic heritage and hope. And today I got two special guests. And before I hand the mic over to them, I just kind of want to do a quick introduction to them. But some special guests in our local community area and also a local non-commissioned officer on Redstone Arsenal. So my first guest is going to be Marcos Almonte Perez. He is the president of Ibana here in our local area of Huntsville and Decatur area. So without further ado, I'll pass the mic over to Marcos so he can do a little introduction. So with that, Marcos.
All right. Thank you, Command Sergeant Major Jimenez, for the opportunity to be here today. And as we celebrate the Hispanic Heritage Month, it's an honor for me to be here and to share about myself. So I'm Puerto Rican. I was born in Puerto Rico. My mom's Puerto Rican. My dad is Dominican. And so I usually will say I'm Puerto Rican Dominican. As you mentioned in the intro, my name is Marcos Almonte Perez. And as many Latinos know, we have sometimes two last names or three or four, depending on who you're talking to. But I was born in Puerto Rico and raised in the New England area where my dad was a evangelical minister and a leader in the community there. And so I grew up wanting to always be in leadership and in service of people in the community. So that's kind of my roots. I currently am a leadership coach and facilitator with Eagle Consulting here in North Alabama. And we are trying to share some of the leadership skills with the community, especially through Ibana, which stands for Hispanic Business Alliance of North Alabama. So we cover all of North Alabama, and we're trying to connect business leaders and entrepreneurs and provide them with leadership skills and business development so they can continue to grow their enterprises, but also to gain other skills and start other people who want to become entrepreneurs on their way to being successful. So that's a little bit about me, and thank you for the opportunity.
Hey, thank you, Marcos. And again, normally we have one special guest, but today's show we're able to get two special guests. And what I like to do is hand it over to Sergeant Maria Reyes from MISIC. And before I hand her the mic, I just want to put out that she was at a promotion board this morning and is now promotable. So outstanding job for that. Congratulations to her. And then she went ahead and said, hey, look, I'll come on to the show and talk to you guys during National Hispanic Heritage Month. So thank you for coming on to the show, taking some time too. I know we're always all busy, but thank you guys for coming and carving out some time to be on this show. Again, it's the BLUF line. It's the bottom line up front. We just bring you some information for you all to reach out. Sergeant Reyes, over to you.
Alrighty. Thank you, Sergeant Major. Yeah, like he said, like today, I was not anticipating on being here, but thank you for the opportunity to be on here. It's my first ever podcast. But a little bit about myself is, like he said, I am working right now as ammunition sergeant for MISIC, which is Missile and Space Intelligence Center. I joined the Army back in 2015. I'm from Grand Prairie, Texas, which is right outside Dallas, Texas. And yeah, I saw how hardworking my family was. They were always, working paycheck to paycheck. And I wanted to see the world. I wanted to serve my country. I knew there was so much more to life than just staying in Texas, as much as I love Texas. But I decided to take that honor of serving this country, and it has brought me here to Alabama. My family is from Mexico. I'm a first generation. And yeah, like I said, I've seen them struggling, but they made it. This was their dream, was to come to America, and I'm super proud of being Mexican. I always see like the ballet folklorico and like mariachis, and they're just like, I don't know, that raises my heartbeat. Like, oh, I'm so proud of that. It's so beautiful. Thank you so much, Sergeant Major, for giving me the opportunity.
That's awesome. And again, thank you for coming to the show. And, I can really relate to you because, one, I'm from Texas myself. I was born and raised in El Paso, Texas. Second generation, my grandparents migrated from Chihuahua, Mexico, and ended up building there in El Paso, Texas. And my parents, born and raised in El Paso, grew up. Both of them were teachers in the school systems, teaching high school and middle school. So, they really instilled a lot of values in me, and those real cultural values of, religion and music and food. I mean, it's such a tradition. And what's good is we get an opportunity to kind of celebrate that. And there's so many different diversities in just the Hispanic heritage, right? I mean, you got Marcos from Puerto Rico and you from, the lower Texas, but still of Mexican descent like myself. And there's so many things that we can talk about. It really gives a chance to recognize the stories, the contributions, achievements, and live through the experiences of the Hispanic heritage across the United States. So it is great to be able to share that. I think it's important that we talk about diversity and we're able to express that and talk about our heritage. So it really gets down to the roots and things. And what I'd like to do is give you guys the opportunity to talk about a little bit more about your roots and, some of the cultural things that kind of influenced you guys. And, I'll go over to Marcos and see what you got.
Yeah, no, thank you again. So like I said, I'm Puerto Rican and Dominican, but through the work that my dad has done for his entire career and working in the community, I was able to be exposed to all kinds of people, like you said, from all over Latin America. And in America, in the United States, historically, we looked at Latinos kind of in different pockets. So we would think of Mexican origin being Texas, Southwest California, Puerto Ricans being in the Northeast, like New York, West Side Story, 1970s, and then Cubans down in Miami area, Little Havana. But over the years, we saw just a migration of all kinds of people, Dominicans to the Rhode Island, New England area, and Venezuelans coming over, and all different races. So for me, I had a good mix of that in terms of my friends and the people we interacted with. I did spend 6 years in South America, living in Bolivia. So I got to experience that culture and just to see how broad the Latino culture is. Even thinking about language, there's some words that they use in Bolivia that are different than in Mexico and in Puerto Rico. So we're not a monolith. I think that's been a lot in the news over the last couple of years that Latinos are not a monolith, right. Religiously, politically. So my direct background's on Puerto Rican, Dominican, but I've been influenced by all the different cultures to the point that cuando hablo en español, people are like, wait, what accent is that? They can't really pinpoint if I'm Puerto Rican or Dominican or where I'm from because of the multicultural influence of all the different Hispanic backgrounds.
I totally agree with you because, growing up and Spanish being my first language till I started kindergarten, my parents really made it a big point for me to learn proper English and worked on it, even though I had an accent way back then, but I think I've worked on it. But even then, joining the Army and being exposed to the different dialects of Spanish has changed my dialect too as well. So when I get back home, sometimes I'll talk Spanish with my family or my friends, and they're like, "You don't talk the same anymore." So you start to pick up different dialects from different people, but it's wonderful to be able to go and still be able to use that language and you don't totally forget it.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
I would tell you that I'll pass it over to you, Sir Andres, and see what you think on some of the things we've been dialoguing with, and see what, from your perspective, what your thoughts are.
Oh, yeah. Well, yeah, joining the Army, like you said, like we see all the different types of Hispanics, like not just, I'm from Texas, so all you see is Mexican. That's all you ever hear. And once you get into the Army, there's everybody, but you don't always get to work with just Hispanic. So that's such a great time whenever you get to work with another Hispanic and you get to like refresh that Spanish, because I could say like my mom only speaks Spanish. So if I want to communicate with her, then just Spanish. And so I just love working with Hispanics whenever I get to, refresh that Spanish, because it is a lot. Like you can forget it like in just those times that you haven't, and it could be like a month and you're already like, oh, what is that word for como dices esto, or like no, most definite. And as we go, and even talking about the different music that's out there, the different foods that's out there, you can say, well, I want enchiladas or tacos or something, and you'll have a certain way in Texas, and then you get across the United States and you go in there thinking you're going to taste what you tasted back home, and it's totally different, you know what I mean? Even to the point of, trying Puerto Rican food, totally different, but so good in its way. I mean, there's so many things that you can talk about, especially during the Hispanic Heritage Month. And really what I'd like to kind of tip off to you guys and ask you guys is what inspires you to do and to continue to kind of dialogue on Hispanic Heritage Month when it comes up, or, if someone was to ask about what is Hispanic Heritage Month, a lot of people don't know that we do celebrate that sometimes, and other diverse cultures, you know what I mean? Unless you've been in the Army or been exposed to some of it, sometimes people don't know that there's observances for different cultures and different heritages that are out there, and what inspires you to continue to talk about it? What do you think, Marcos?
Yeah, no, I think it's like you pointed out in the history, it started with just 1 week, and then Reagan extended it to a month. I appreciate that. That's in line with like Black History Month in February. And for me, it's important because it gives us the opportunity to highlight the impact that Hispanics, Latinos have made to America. And especially when you think about, I was watching a documentary recently of the Hispanic heritage in Florida. We oftentimes think of the Pilgrims in the Northeast, but they were Spaniards down in Florida before the Pilgrims were in the Northeast. So there's a lot of contributions. You think of California, there are churches dating back to the 1500s, so it gives us the opportunity to look back at that history, look where we've come, but also to remind us of the challenges that we have. Every year we can kind of keep ourselves as a community accountable to say, okay, what are we still trying to achieve? What else do we need to do? And so to pause for a month and do that, I think is why I continue to talk about it and celebrate it when this time of year comes around.
No, you're right. And Andres, I'll give you an opportunity to chime in too as well. But it really gives us opportunity to reflect, right? Reflect. And sometimes I think we can get lost in our day-to-day jobs and our interactions. And, we're so busy, and it kind of allows us, this month to kind of reflect on the challenges and struggles that, our ancestors faced to get us, or give me and all of us that are here today that opportunity to flourish like we have. And I really want to give thanks to my grandparents and my parents who've worked so hard, like San Reyes explained, day in and day out, just in the grind, trying to better the future of that family line, or the future of Hispanos or Latinos. That is, to me, is pretty grand to be able to reflect back on some of that. San Reyes, you got any thought on some of that?
Yeah, like you were saying about how we get lost in our day-to-day, and especially with COVID around, like you don't get to hear or see, and with everybody being still quarantined, just like whenever I said like the Ballet Folklorico and the Mariachis, like I saw that on Facebook, and that just like I forget that I'm Hispanic sometimes, because like in the Army you're taught to just, you're all the same person, like, and I feel like a lot of people if that's where a lot of discrimination comes, is that they do point out these differences in cultures and stuff, but what we should do as Americans, like America is all a melting pot. It's all, we're all immigrants here, but, celebrate our heritage, with the food. Like I get excited for Taco Tuesdays. Like I love, and then not those, Taco Bell. I like that.
Right.
The street tacos. Yeah.
Now, I'll tell you that I get excited every time I get an opportunity to go home to El Paso, Texas, because you get to, almost any station you're turning to, you're listening to some good Mexican music. There's good Mexican restaurants all around, and it's just, to me, I think it just helps to give an understanding to everybody, because, we're talking about Hispanic Heritage Month, but there's so many other diversities that are celebrated and they get the opportunity to talk about. And I think it's really just the opportunity to educate and continue to educate, like you said, that, many of us just migrated here and we're able to build what we know as the United States, and it's so diverse. And I think to continue to talk about it and educate people, like how proud we are of our heritage, how proud other people are of their heritage. It's a diverse understanding of how great this nation is, And it celebrates 5 Latin American countries. We're talking about Costa Rica, El Salvador, Guatemala, Honduras, Nicaragua. With Mexico and Chile. So this whole celebration between the 15th of September and 15th October, it allows for all those heritages to kind of give opportunity to talk, And I would tell you what makes it special for me, it's because el día 16 de septiembre is when Mexico celebrates its Independence Day, and it's also my birthday. So I always say, hey, Mexico celebrates my birthday with me, So it's pretty exciting on my birthday because it's a big celebration in Mexico. And I can tell you from my childhood years coming through, my parents really made a big party. And I don't know if it was much for me or if it was a celebration for Mexican Heritage Month, or Independence, but it's pretty special to be able to talk to our listening audience a little bit about the Hispanic Heritage Month. There's so many different heritage out there just in the Latino community, and want to give you guys a little opportunity to kind of say anything you might want to say before we maybe close out, or if there's something else on your mind that you'd like to dialogue on, by all means. And if not, we'll close it on out. Over to you, Marcos.
Yeah, no, I think there's a lot that can be said. One of my biggest things, and we talked about, I think in the intro, the celebration of the heritage and hope. So I'm always forward looking, right? So we can look at the past and celebrate kind of, again, like I said, where we've come from, but where are we going? And when you look at the growth in American population, this last census showed that Hispanics, Latinos continue to grow, right, all over the country. And one of the things that we've seen, which is unique to the Latino community, is that you can go to any state, literally any state. You can go in the middle of nowhere, Wyoming, and find Latinos, right? Because we are very resourceful. We learn quick. We work hard. And what happens is Latino families typically, on average, have more children per family than other families. So what we're seeing, and here in Alabama specifically where we are, is that there's a lot of schools where the majority of the population are Latino kids. So the population is 6% of the overall population, but in the schools it's 50 to 60%. The reason I bring that up, maybe as towards closing here, is that we're building for the future. And the kids who are 8 years old today, right, in all these schools, they're going to be 18 years old. And they're going to be in that choice to what, like Sergeant Reyes, where you were at, whereas what am I going to do in my life? Do I serve my country? Do I leave this state? And we want to, my goal, my mission is to encourage these young minds to expand, like we've all had the opportunity, and say, you know what, there's a lot more than just going to school, getting a job, and surviving. As Latinos, as these Hispanic families and people, I hope that my hope, and the question about hope, is that we can move beyond survival, the day-to-day, to thriving, to having careers like you, Command Sergeant Major, and where you've come in your career and where you're at. I want kids to see that and like, wow, I can be a Sergeant Major in the Army, right? or I can be a leadership coach like Marcos, or I can be, Sergeant Reyes and go to a promotional board and pass, right? I want kids to aspire to greater things. And I think this month gives us the opportunity to bring that message close to home.
No, you're absolutely right. And, as you were talking about, building for that future, it kind of reminded me of phases and stages that we're going through because, at some point in time, my parents and probably your parents might have been thinking the same thing. It's like, I got children now. How do I get them to be better than I was, right? Yeah. And then I feel like that torch is finally being passed to us. Our parents have passed that torch to us to continue to lead that. And when my children grow up, I want to be able to pass that torch and hopefully they continue to push forward and say, and maybe they're on a podcast talking about Hispanic Heritage Month, or they're out there being a leadership coach or being a future leader in the United States Army or finishing their degrees and all that stuff. I want them to flourish and be successful more than I could ever be. And I think our parents did that for us, and I want to do that for that next generation. So it really spurs up, and I want to let Sergeant Reyes kind of say, what does it feel like to be handed that torch to lead that next future generation from your parents?
Yeah, it's very like heartwarming and stuff because they fought and they did all of that for me. And I feel like I have to, keep moving forward. Like, what's next that's going to be best for me? Because they set that up for me. And, like, I can't let them down. Like, that's yeah. I can't let my family down.
No, and I think we're kind of tuned. We got so much pride and we got so much, love and energy for bettering ourselves and bettering our culture and, continue to push forward. I think it's good to see just this group here, us three, talking about it. I'm sure there's many out there that are feeling kind of the same way. It's like, what? I've been handed that torch to take, my next generation to the next level or the future generation to the next level. Sometimes it is a big rucksack to carry on your shoulders, but don't feel like you're going at it alone. We're all talking about it, and I'm glad I was able to have the opportunity to bring Marcos onto the show and Sergeant Reyes onto the show. Any last closing remarks, Sergeant Reyes, before we close out?
I just want to say gracias por tenerme aquí. Like, just thank you for pulling me out here, and was not expecting it, but I really appreciate to have the opportunity and to talk about Hispanic heritage as a Hispanic woman in the armed forces.
Thank you, Sergeant Reyes. Anything else, Sergeant Marcos or Mr. Marcos? Are you good?
No, not Sergeant yet. Right. No, gracias por la oportunidad de compartir hoy y estar con ustedes, and I hope that we can do it again.
Yeah, most definite. Then as we close out, again, I just want to say thank you to our listeners out there for tuning in to the BLUF line, the bottom line up front. By all means, we want to continue to bring you different episodes with different topics and different people. Thank you for tuning in for this Hispanic Heritage Podcast episode. Muchas gracias a toda mi gente, a todos que están escuchando ahora. Me da mucho gusto y gracias y ahí hablamos otra vez. This is Sergeant Major Jimenez signing off. Thank you.